James woke up early, feeling excited and nervous at the same time. Today was his first day at a prestigious five-star hotel as their new receptionist. He had worked hard to land this job, attending multiple interviews and proving his skills. Now, standing in front of the large glass doors of the luxurious hotel, he straightened his tie, took a deep breath, and stepped inside. The lobby was grand, with sparkling chandeliers, marble floors, and elegant furniture. James smiled as he looked around, imagining himself welcoming guests and helping them feel comfortable. He adjusted his name tag in his pocket, ready to introduce himself to his new team. Before he could take another step, a security guard approached him. The guard was tall and serious-looking, with a stern expression that didn't soften even as James smiled politely. "Excuse me, sir," the guard said, stepping in front of James. "Do you have a reservation here?" James was taken aback, but remained calm. "Actually, I'm not a guest. I'm starting as the new receptionist today. My name is James." The guard raised an eyebrow, looking at James skeptically. "Receptionist? I wasn't informed about any new staff. Are you sure you're in the right place?" "Yes, I'm sure," James replied. "I spoke with the manager yesterday. She told me to report here this morning." The guard didn't seem convinced. He crossed his arms and said, "I'm going to need you to leave. This is a high-end establishment, and we can't have people wandering in without permission." James felt a wave of embarrassment as a few guests glanced his way, whispering. He wanted to explain further but could see the guard wasn't interested in listening. To avoid causing a scene, James nodded politely and stepped back toward the door. "Thank you for understanding," the guard said, his tone dismissive. Outside, James stood for a moment, feeling frustrated and confused. How could this happen on his first day? He had done everything right, yet he was treated like he didn't belong. Taking a deep breath, he pulled out his phone and called the hotel manager, Miss Carter. "Hello, James," she answered cheerfully. "Are you here already?" "Yes, Miss Carter," James replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "But there's been a misunderstanding. The security guard asked me to leave, thinking I wasn't supposed to be here." Miss Carter gasped. "What? That's unacceptable. Please come back inside right now. I'll meet you at the entrance." Relieved, James turned and walked back toward the hotel. This time, he wasn't going to let anyone stop him. As he entered, he saw Miss Carter approaching with a welcoming smile. "James, I'm so sorry for what happened," she said warmly. "Let me introduce you to the team properly." James nodded, feeling a mix of relief and determination. He wasn't going to let one bad experience ruin this opportunity. As James walked back into the hotel lobby with Miss Carter by his side, he could feel the curious stares of staff and guests. The security guard who had turned him away earlier was still standing near the entrance, his posture stiff. When he saw James returning, his eyes narrowed in confusion. "Miss Carter, is everything all right?" the guard asked, glancing between her and James. "No, everything is not all right," Miss Carter replied firmly. "This is James, our new receptionist. He was supposed to start today, but instead you sent him away without asking any questions." The guard's face turned pale. I didn't know he was staff. I thought." "You thought what?" Miss Carter interrupted, her tone sharp but controlled. "Did you bother to check? Did you ask for his name or verify his identity?" The guard stammered, clearly uncomfortable. I'm sorry, ma'am. I made a mistake." James watched the exchange silently, his expression calm. He didn't want to escalate the situation, but he also couldn't ignore how he had been treated. Miss Carter turned to James with an apologetic look. "James, I deeply regret this misunderstanding. This is not how we treat our staff, or anyone, for that matter. I promise we'll address this properly." James nodded. "Thank you, Miss Carter. I'm here to work hard and do my best. I just want to make sure I'm treated fairly." "You will be," she assured him. She then introduced James to some of the other staff members, including the front desk team he would be working with. They greeted him warmly, and James felt a little more at ease. He noticed a mix of surprise and curiosity in their eyes, likely because they had heard about the earlier incident. As James settled in behind the reception desk, Ms. Carter gave him a quick tour of the system and procedures. Despite the rocky start, he quickly adapted, his natural friendliness and professionalism shining through. Within minutes, he was greeting guests with a smile, answering their questions, and handling their requests like a seasoned professional. Meanwhile, the security guard watched from a distance, his discomfort growing as he realized just how wrong he had been. He approached James hesitantly during a quiet moment. James," the guard said awkwardly, scratching the back of his neck. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry for what happened earlier. I shouldn't have jumped to conclusions." James looked at him for a moment, then nodded. "Apology accepted. Let's just make sure it doesn't happen again. Not just to me, but to anyone." The guard nodded quickly. "It won't. I'll do better." By the end of the day, James felt more settled in his new role. While the incident had been frustrating, he chose to focus on the positive. He was here now, ready to prove himself and make a difference. James arrived early the next morning, ready to make a fresh start. He knew the best way to move past the incident was to focus on his work and show everyone his skills. With a bright smile and a calm demeanor, he took his place behind the reception desk. As guests began checking in, James handled their requests with ease. A family needed adjoining rooms, and he quickly rearranged the bookings to accommodate them. An elderly couple wanted recommendations for local attractions, and James not only provided a list, but also arranged transportation for them. Each guest left the desk smiling, impressed by his helpfulness. By mid-morning, James was already making an impression on his coworkers. Sarah, one of the senior receptionists, approached him during a break. "You're doing a great job," she said with a smile. "It's not easy to step into a role like this, especially after what happened yesterday." James shrugged modestly. "I just want to do my best. Guests deserve great service, and I'm here to make sure they get it." Sarah nodded. "Well, you're off to a strong start. Keep it up." As the day went on, James faced a challenge that tested his patience and problem-solving skills. A guest, Mr. Rogers, came to the desk, clearly upset. "There's a problem with my room," he said, his tone sharp. "The air conditioning isn't working, and I can't sleep in a sauna." James remained calm, maintaining his friendly demeanor. "I'm sorry to hear that, Mr. Rogers. Let me see what I can do to fix this for you." He quickly checked the system and found another room available in the same price range. "I can move you to a new room immediately," he said. "And to make up for the inconvenience, I'll arrange for complimentary breakfast during your stay." Mr. Rogers' expression softened. "Thank you. That's very kind of you." James personally escorted Mr. Rogers to his new room, ensuring everything was perfect. The guest was so pleased that he stopped by the desk later to thank James again. "You handled that situation very well," he said. "I'll make sure to leave a positive review." Word of James's professionalism spread quickly among the staff. Even those who had been skeptical of him at first began to see his dedication and skill. The security guard who had dismissed him on the first day watched from afar, clearly impressed. By the end of his shift, James felt a sense of accomplishment. He had not only helped numerous guests, but also started to earn the respect of his colleagues. As he left the hotel, he thought about how far he had come in just 2 days. "This is only the beginning," he said to himself. "I'll keep working hard and prove that I belong here." Unbeknownst to James, his actions were already inspiring those around him to treat each other, and every guest, with more kindness and respect. As the days passed, James settled into his role at the hotel. Each morning, he arrived early, greeting everyone with a warm smile and ready to take on the day. His work ethic and positive attitude quickly caught the attention of his colleagues. Even those who had been hesitant to trust him after the incident began to see his value. James treated every guest with patience and respect. When a family with small children struggled with their luggage, he stepped out from behind the desk to help them carry their bags to their room. "Thank you so much," the mother said, clearly relieved. "You didn't have to do that." James smiled. "It's my pleasure. Enjoy your stay and let me know if you need anything." His kindness didn't go unnoticed. Sarah, the senior receptionist, observed his actions and felt inspired. "You're setting a great example, James," she told him during their lunch break. "It's refreshing to see someone so dedicated to making people feel welcome." James chuckled softly. "I just believe in treating others how I'd want to be treated. A little kindness goes a long way." Despite the progress he was making, there were still moments of awkwardness. The security guard, who had initially dismissed him, seemed to avoid eye contact whenever their paths crossed. James noticed this but chose not to address it directly. Instead, he focused on his work, believing that actions spoke louder than words. One afternoon, a group of business executives checked in for a conference. Their arrival was chaotic, with last-minute room changes and special requests. James managed the situation calmly, juggling phone calls, bookings, and guest inquiries without missing a beat. When the lead executive, Mr. Lawson, approached the desk later to thank him personally, James felt a swell of pride. "You've been incredibly helpful," Mr. Lawson said. "It's not often we see such professionalism. I'll be mentioning this in my feedback." That evening, after his shift ended, James sat in the staff lounge reflecting on the day. He was tired but satisfied. The job was challenging, but he enjoyed the opportunity to meet new people and solve problems. Sarah joined him, holding 2 cups of coffee. "Here, you've earned this," she said, handing him one. "You're really making an impact here, James." "Thanks, Sarah," he replied, taking a sip. "It feels good to be part of a team that cares about what they do." As they talked, the security guard walked into the lounge, looking hesitant. He stood by the door for a moment before approaching James. "Hey, James," he said, his voice uncertain. "I just wanted to say, I've been watching how you handle things, and I was wrong about you. I'm sorry for how I treated you on your first day." James looked at him, surprised but pleased. "Thank you for saying that. It means a lot. Let's move forward from here." The guard nodded, a small smile forming. From that moment on, the tension eased, and the hotel felt more like a team than ever before. As weeks went by, James became the heart of the hotel lobby. Guests remembered his name, often stopping by the reception desk just to chat or thank him for his exceptional service. His coworkers, too, began to rely on him for his problem-solving skills and calm presence. One particularly busy afternoon, the hotel faced a chaotic situation. A large group of international tourists arrived earlier than expected, while several guests were checking out late. The lobby was packed with people, and tensions were running high. Sarah, the senior receptionist, looked overwhelmed. "James, this is a mess. We don't have enough rooms ready, and the guests are getting impatient." James nodded, already formulating a plan. "Let's divide and conquer. I'll handle the tourists and explain the situation, and you focus on speeding up the checkouts. We'll get through this." He approached the group of tourists with a welcoming smile. "Good afternoon, everyone. I'm James, and I'm here to help. I understand you've arrived a bit early, and I appreciate your patience. While we prepare your rooms, can I offer you some refreshments in the lounge? I'll keep you updated every step of the way." The tourists, initially frustrated, seemed to relax at his friendly demeanor and clear communication. As they moved to the lounge, James coordinated with housekeeping to prioritize their rooms. Meanwhile, Sarah noticed how the checkout line was moving more efficiently thanks to James's quick thinking. By the time the tourists' rooms were ready, they were smiling and thanking him for his help. "Thank you, James," one of the group leaders said. "You made this much easier for us." "It's my pleasure," James replied warmly. "Enjoy your stay, and let me know if you need anything else." After the lobby cleared, Sarah approached James, looking relieved. "You saved the day, James. I don't know how you stay so calm under pressure." James smiled. "It's all about taking it one step at a time. Panicking doesn't help anyone." That evening, Mr. Carter, the hotel's general manager, stopped by the reception desk. He had heard about James's handling of the busy afternoon and wanted to acknowledge his efforts. "James, I've been hearing great things about you," Mr. Carter said. "Your professionalism and dedication are exactly what we need here. Keep up the excellent work." "Thank you, sir," James replied, humbled by the praise. As the day ended, James felt a deep sense of accomplishment. He knew that his hard work and positive attitude were not only helping the hotel run smoothly, but also building trust and respect among his colleagues. Before leaving, he passed by the security guard who had once doubted him. The guard gave him a nod and a smile. "Great job today, James," he said sincerely. James nodded back. "Thanks. We're all in this together." Walking out of the hotel, James felt proud. He had turned a difficult start into an opportunity to shine, and he wasn't done yet. As James continued to excel in his role, his influence began to extend beyond his daily duties. His work ethic and positive attitude inspired those around him, and the hotel staff started to feel like more of a team. Even the small things he did, like greeting coworkers with a smile or offering help when they were overwhelmed, made a difference. One morning, Mr. Carter, the general manager, called a staff meeting in the conference room. The agenda was clear: improving teamwork and communication across departments. Everyone gathered, curious about what the meeting would entail. James, as always, sat quietly, ready to contribute if needed. Mr. Carter began by addressing the challenges the hotel had faced recently, particularly during busy periods. "We've had some tough moments, but we've also seen amazing teamwork," he said, glancing at James with a smile. "James here has been a shining example of how we can support each other and our guests." James felt his cheeks warm as his coworkers clapped. He hadn't expected to be singled out, but he appreciated the recognition. "James," Mr. Carter continued, "would you mind sharing your approach? How do you stay so calm and effective, even in stressful situations?" James nodded, standing up. "Thank you, Mr. Carter. I think the key is to stay focused on solutions instead of problems. When something goes wrong, I try to break it down into smaller steps and tackle each one. Also, I believe in treating everyone, guests and coworkers alike, with respect and kindness. When we support each other, everything feels easier." The room was silent for a moment, and then Sarah chimed in. "He's right. I've seen how James handles tough situations, and it's inspiring. I think we can all learn from his approach." The meeting ended with a renewed sense of unity among the staff. Departments that rarely communicated started collaborating more, and the hotel began to run more smoothly as a result. A few days later, James noticed the security guard, Mark, struggling with a large delivery of packages for the hotel's conference center. Without hesitation, James walked over to help. "Hey, Mark. Need a hand?" Mark looked up, surprised but grateful. "Thanks, James. I've got a lot to move, and it's been a hectic morning." Together, they carried the packages to the right location, chatting along the way. By the end of it, Mark seemed more relaxed. "I appreciate this, James. You've been a bigger part of this team than I ever gave you credit for." James smiled. "We're all here to help each other, Mark. That's how we make things work." As the day ended, James felt a deep sense of satisfaction. He wasn't just doing a job. He was helping create a culture of respect and collaboration. And while the road hadn't been easy, it was clear that he had earned his place at the hotel, not just as a receptionist, but as a valued member of the team. As the days turned into weeks, James had become a respected and integral part of the hotel. Guests asked for him by name, and coworkers leaned on him for advice and support. Even the staff who had been skeptical at first now recognized his dedication and talent. One afternoon, James was handling the front desk when a VIP guest, Mrs. Taylor arrived unexpectedly. Known for being demanding, she walked into the lobby with her assistant and a long list of requests. The other receptionists looked nervous, but James remained calm and greeted her warmly. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Taylor," he said with a smile. "Welcome back to the hotel. It's a pleasure to have you here again." Mrs. Taylor glanced at him, raising an eyebrow. "I wasn't expecting someone new at the front desk," she said sharply. "Are you sure you can handle my requirements?" James nodded confidently. "I'll make sure everything is perfect for you, Mrs. Taylor. Let me take care of your check-in, and I'll personally ensure your room meets all your expectations." As he efficiently handled her requests, arranging for a specific room, adjusting the temperature, and coordinating with the kitchen for her dietary preferences, Mrs. Taylor's initial doubt began to fade. By the time she left for her suite, she gave James a small nod of approval. Later that evening, Mrs. Taylor called the front desk to speak with Mr. Carter. When he answered, she praised James's professionalism. "That young man is excellent," she said. "He handled everything perfectly. You should be proud to have him on your team." Word of the praise spread quickly through the hotel. James, who had no idea Mrs. Taylor had spoken so highly of him, continued working as usual, but his coworkers were buzzing with admiration. During a quiet moment, Sarah leaned over and whispered, "Mrs. Taylor doesn't praise anyone easily. You must have really impressed her." James smiled, slightly embarrassed. "I just did my job. Everyone deserves to feel valued, no matter how big or small their requests are." As the week went on, James's positive influence continued to grow. He noticed how the staff started mirroring his behavior, offering to help each other, treating guests with extra care, and working as a team during busy times. Even Mark, the security guard who had once dismissed James, seemed to have turned over a new leaf. One evening, as James was preparing to leave for the day, Mr. Carter approached him with a broad smile. "James, I want to thank you for everything you've brought to this hotel. Your professionalism and kindness have set a new standard for all of us. I've decided to recommend you for the Employee of the Month award." James blinked in surprise. "Thank you, sir. That means a lot." "You've earned it," Mr. Carter replied. "And I think we all have something to learn from you." As James walked out of the hotel that night, he felt a deep sense of pride. He had not only earned the respect of his colleagues, but also helped create a better environment for everyone. The day James was named Employee of the Month was one he would never forget. His photo was displayed proudly in the staff lounge, along with a certificate recognizing his hard work and dedication. His coworkers gathered around him to celebrate, clapping and cheering as Mr. Carter handed him the award. "James, you've shown all of us what it means to truly care about our work and the people we serve," Mr. Carter said, smiling warmly. "This is just a small token of our appreciation for everything you've done." James accepted the certificate with humility, thanking everyone for their support. "I couldn't have done this without all of you," he said. "We're a team, and I'm proud to be part of it." The security guard, Mark, approached James after the celebration. "I owe you more than an apology, James," he said, his voice sincere. "I judged you unfairly on your first day, and I regret that. Watching you work has taught me a lot about patience and respect." James smiled and shook his hand. "We all make mistakes, Mark. What matters is how we move forward." "Thank you for saying that." As the weeks went by, the changes James had inspired continued to grow. Guests frequently left positive reviews mentioning his name, praising his friendliness and efficiency. His coworkers became more united, helping each other during busy shifts and creating a supportive atmosphere. One day, a group of new hires joined the hotel, ready to begin their training. Mr. Carter asked James to lead the orientation, a responsibility typically reserved for senior staff. James felt honored and eagerly took on the task. Standing before the new employees, he shared his journey. "When I first started here, things didn't go as smoothly as I hoped," he began. But I learned that challenges are opportunities to show who you really are. Treat everyone with kindness, work hard, and always stay calm under pressure. You're not just working a job. You're part of something bigger. The new hires listened attentively, inspired by his words. Sarah, who watched from the back of the room, whispered to another staff member, "He's a natural leader." Outside the hotel, James's life felt equally fulfilling. He often reflected on how far he had come, not just professionally but personally. The experience of proving himself and earning respect had given him confidence he didn't know he had. One evening, as he walked through the bustling lobby, a guest stopped him. "Are you James?" they asked. "Yes, that's me," he replied with a smile. "I've heard so many good things about you," the guest said. "You're the reason I chose to stay here." James thanked them, feeling a deep sense of pride. This was more than just a job. It was a chance to make a difference in people's lives. As he stood behind the reception desk, welcoming guests with his usual warmth, James knew this was just the beginning of a promising future.